The Luxor Temple, known in antiquity as the Southern Sanctuary of Amun, is rightfully considered one of the most magnificent temple complexes of the ancient world. The fact that it has survived to this day is nothing short of a miracle. The structure is over 4,000 years old, and today it is cramped within the city, pressed tightly by modern buildings. In ancient times, most of the temple's rituals were connected to the Opet festival, established by Pharaoh Amenhotep I in the 16th century BCE. Back then, the celebration lasted up to 12 days, but in later centuries its duration expanded to a full month. As part of the festival, the bark of Amun-Userhet would journey from his main temple in Karnak to the southern sanctuary, Luxor Temple, where the supreme god of Thebes spent time with his divine consorts. At first, the bark was carried overland, moving along a specially built 3 kilometers avenue, lined with sphinxes. But on the return journey, Amun traveled back to his sanctuary in Karnak by boat, sailing down the Nile. Recently, Egypt's Ministry of Culture managed to visually recreate the ancient festival, and the result was breathtakingly beautiful. Yet I believe that in antiquity it was even grander, more splendid, and left a far deeper mark on people's heart. It was not just a visually striking spectacle. It was a sacred event rooted in the religious beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. To them, this was not merely the golden bark of Amun passing between temples. As the god stepped out from the sacred world into the profane, he brought with him prosperity, divine favor, and the promise to eternal life to all who took part in this sacred act. The festival was composed of several stages. First, the pharaoh offered incense before the holy bark, invoking the presence of the god. Then, priests wearing masks of falcons and jackals, like spirits of ancient rulers whose names had long been forgotten, solemnly carried the bark out of the temple. They were accompanied by a grand procession of singers, dancers, acrobats, and the priests and priestesses of Karnak, who illuminated the path of the sacred bark with torches, guiding it along the avenue of sphinxes. The procession moved through the sacred corridor, passing between the colossal statues of Ramses the Great, erected the guard to hidden world of the temple from the god's external enemies. And at the culmination of his journey within the Luxor temple, the god Amun, as a primordial deity, enters into a divine union with the earthly queen, assuming the form of her husband, the pharaoh. From this sacred marriage is born the next ruler, a king, who is not only a royal heir, but also a divine one. Yet, in uniting with a mortal woman, Amun surrenders a part of his sacred essence, losing a measure of his divine status. He transitions into the realm of the departed, becoming an ancestor spirit, the father of the king. From that moment on, the reigning pharaoh, now embodying the role of his own divine son, was required to perform funerary rites to his deceased father, Amun. In return for the divine essence bestowed upon him, the pharaoh would offer a portion of his own life force to the god, ensuring that Amun would be triumphantly reborn in the grand ritual of resurrection. This festival was always celebrated in summer, during the annual flooding of the Nile, a time when agricultural work came to a halt. Freed from their labors, people indulged in days of celebration, rejoicing, drinking, and reveling in the festivities. However, Opet was not only the state festival. In ancient Egypt, nearly 180 days of the year were dedicated to religious observances. Of course, those rituals primarily concerned the temples and priesthood, who performed sacred ceremonies on a regular basis. But for the common people, there was no shortage of merriment either. We are standing in the temple of one of the most remarkable and successful king of ancient Egypt. More precisely, a queen, Her Majesty Maat-Kara Hatshepsut, who presided over one of Egypt's most prosperous and flourishing eras. This was the Golden Age, a time when art and craftsmanship reached the pinnacle, producing the most exquisite masterpieces and constructing the grandest temples. One such marvel is the very temple, Djeser Djeseru, Holy of Holies. Once this arid desert landscape was adorned with lush gardens of fragrant trees, frankincense and myrrh, brought from the land of Punt, modern-day Somalia, by an expedition commissioned by the queen herself. The temple reliefs vividly depict this tale, how the queen standing on the upper terrace, her skin anointed with oil infused with gold dust, shone like a radiant golden goddess, awaiting the return of her ship, laden with treasures from distant lands. A legend spoke of Hatshepsut's divine origins. It was said that one day the god Amun desired to find the most perfect woman on earth. The goddess of love and beauty Hathor walked the land in search of such a woman and found that the most extraordinary of all was the Egyptian queen Ahmose, wife of Pharaoh Thutmose I. So Amun took on the form of her husband and came to her chambers. Only by a hint of frankincense and myrrh did the queen realize that she was in the presence of the god. From this union, a child was conceived. The god of wisdom, Thoth, brought the queen a divine message. Her daughter was possessed a dual life force, both the masculine Ka and the feminine Khemut, which meant that she, like male rulers, could act as a divine intermediary between the world of the gods and the world of the living. Of course, this tale was a creation of Hatshepsut herself, an ideological narrative meant to legitimize her reign. But one must admit, it is a beautiful legend, seamlessly intertwined with the rituals of the Opet festival. If we look across the Nile from here, we can see the great temple of Ipet Isut, the Karnak temple. This is no coincidence, for the temple of Hatshepsut was built in perfect alignment with it. At sunrise, the sun would rise precisely above the central axis of Karnak, then continue its path towards the valley of Deir el-Bahri, illuminating the sacred sanctuary. And once again, the Arabic name, Deir el-Bahri, Monastery of the North. Indeed, in later centuries, an early Christian monastery stood here, built using stones taken from the magnificent temple of Hatshepsut. Fortunately, the temple was restored to its former glory, and today it stands before us in all its pristine beauty. The walls of the temple bear the chronicle of the queen's reign, yet within its depths lies something even more astonishing, an incredibly ancient cave dedicated to the mother goddess, upon which the sacred temple was erected. For this reason, during the festival of Hebnefer and Inen, the beautiful feast of the valley, Amun-Ra, the lord of Karnak, would cross the Nile aboard his solar bark, accompanied by a spectacular procession. From the eastern to the western bank, he would journey into the hidden womb of the mother goddess within the Deir el-Bahri cliffs. Here, in a sacred rite, he would be renewed, rejuvenated, and share his eternal life with the world, including the departed pharaohs, ensuring they could continue to uphold cosmic order. During this divine ritual, the solar bark bearing the deity statue remained inside the temple for one night. Around it stood 4 great torches and 4 large vessels, filled with sacred milk of cows. The 4 vessels of water symbolized the 4 cardinal directions. Before sunrise, the torches were extinguished in the milk, while sacred incantations were recited. The milk, now imbued with divine power, was believed to hold healing prosperities. and people gathered outside the temple, hoping to receive a portion of it to cure ailments or solve their troubles. It was believed that Amun, the great lord of Karnak, upon entering the womb of the mother goddess, passed through death itself. Overcoming it, he emerged at dawn, reborn and filled with new strength. He then embarked on a journey across the western bank of the Nile, visiting the mortuary temples of past kings. During these visits, a floral wreath in the shape of the Ankh, the symbol of eternal life, was placed upon the cult statue of each ruler. In this way, Amun bestowed the mother goddess' gift upon every departed pharaoh, acknowledging them as incarnation of Horus, who once ruled the earth. For the mortuary temples of the kings, each of Amun's visits was a grand celebration, the festival of eternal life. But this festival was not held solely in honor of Amun and the past kings. It was also deeply connected to another deity, the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet. According to an ancient legend, in a time when gods and humans lived side by side, the people began to suspect that their king, the sun god Ra, had grown weak and plotted to kill him. When Ra learned of this, he summoned the gods to a divine council to decide what should be done. But none dared to fight against such a vast number of humans. Then Ra was advised to send his daughter, the goddess of love and beauty, Hathor, who had no choice but to obey. The gentle goddess transformed into the wrathful aspect, lion-headed Sekhmet, and descended upon the people. She found the taste of their blood so intoxicating that she vowed to wipe out humanity entirely. No one could stop her. Ra realized that if he did nothing, there would soon be no humans left on Earth. So he devised a plan. He ordered the brewing of the finest beer, into which the red mineral Didi was added, giving the drink the appearance of blood. The beer was poured across the fields, and when the lion-headed goddess saw what seemed to be fresh pools of human blood, she threw herself upon them and drank deeply, consuming every last drop, until she collapsed and fell into a deep sleep. But when she awoke the next morning and realized the destruction she had caused, Sekhmet left Egypt in shame. And with her departure, the days of prosperity vanished. Droughts, plagues, and famine swept through the land. To restore balance, Ra sent the god of wisdom Thoth to bring her back. Through cunning and flattery, Thoth convinced Sekhmet to return, praising her greatness and telling her how beloved she was in Egypt. He spoke of her grand celebrations, the tributes and the offerings that awaited her should she grace the land with her presence once more. Moved by compassion, the solar daughter returned home, and with her, prosperity was restored to Egypt. Thus, every year, along the beautiful feast of Vali, the people celebrated another festival, the Night of Drunkenness. During this sacred night, all adult members of the family would take beer, wine and food and go to the necropolis, gathering at the tomb of their ancestors. It was believed that on this night, the spirits of their forebears joined them at the family feast, and a sacred exchange of power took place between the living and the dead. By speaking the names of their ancestors, the living ensured their eternal existence. In return, the dead bestowed upon their descendants the strength of the Ka, the lion force of the lineage, securing vitality for future generations. Let us know in the comments, do you find the festivals of ancient Egypt fascinating? And which traditions, in your opinion, have survived to this day?